Hi, English 9. We continue our reading of The Glory Field by Walter Dean Myers, picking up on page 189. The crushing feeling seemed to rise from her knees, careen through her trembling body, and settle heavily in Lavinia's chest. When the tears came, they came as they never had before, rushing to her eyes and pouring down her cheeks, even as she tried to muffle them by pulling the pillow tightly into her face. She cried, her body twisting with the misery that filled every conscious part of her. What surprised her, lying in the darkness, was that she couldn't think. There was a sense of panic and the memory of sitting behind Florence and Katy in the back of the car, trying not to think of what Mr. Dietz would think of her. She closed her eyes tightly, trying to bring on the relief of sleep, trying to move away from the pain that was now as real as any she had ever known before. But sleep would not come, or even one clear thought that did not renew the well of tears or the quilt's muffled sobs. It was when her arms began to jerk, when her hands, still clutching the telegram, seemed to move on their own, that she knew she had to get out of the house, to see some person, something that would bring sanity back to her. Lavinia more ran than walked to Miss Etta's house, her eyes swollen, her vision blurred. Fragments of thoughts tumbled through her mind in a mad rush that seemed to mirror the crowded Chicago streets. She imagined herself taking the bus to the Dietz's home, finding Mr. Dietz, and begging him to take her back. Through the crystal prism of her tears, she ran hard into a tall black man. He was thin, the stench of old sweat mingled with new, announcing his presence as much as the gold tooth in the front of his mouth. I'm sorry, she mumbled, as much to herself as to the man. Hey, baby, I got some good news for you, the man said. Whoever done hurt you, he ain't worth it. Whoever done hurt you, the man said. What had hurt her, what she knew would hurt her as soon as she heard it coming from Florence's mouth, was that Mr. Dietz would think of her as just another colored girl with female trouble, and had fired her for that very reason. Miss Etta's door was partially open, and Lavinia pushed in and saw the woman sitting at the table in her slip, sewing a dress where it had split under the arm. What happened? Miss Etta's voice was flat and hard as she looked up from the dark blue dress before her. Got fired from my job. Lavinia sat down heavily. She felt her face contort into a mask of sorrow, felt the bosom fill, and heard the sobs coming even before they reached her throat. I'm just going to curry. Girl, we got problems here. Miss Eddix examined her work on the outside of the dress. You know Sister Stovall died. Well, they got her laid out all proper, but the casket done broke open. Miss Etta, I lost my job. Girl, a black woman losing a job ain't no big thing. Miss Etta pushed as she broke the thread with her teeth. It ain't the last job you going to lose. Mr. Harrison's mother was over at the sitting today, and she said the casket broke open at the corner. The funeral's tonight. Can't they can't they just nail it up or something? Lavinia asked. Uh. It's one of them cheap caskets in the wood warped. They tried to nail up one side and the other side started splitting. That's I know what it is. Miss Etta stood and slipped the dress over her head. It's a shame, but that undertaker, that wall-eyed fool that used to live in the Colored Y, and whoever heard of an undertaker who lives in the YMCA, won't be back until tonight when they have the funeral. I thought you didn't like Sister Stovall. That's right. I couldn't stand the two-faced heifer, Miss Etta said, straightening out her dress. But she's gone now, and everybody got a right to a decent burial. I'm going over there to see what I can do. You coming with me? Lavinia spoke, didn't hear the words coming out, and nodded that yes, she would go. I thought you would, so why don't you go on in the bathroom and wash your face and take yourself a good pee, Miss Etta said. That sometimes helps you to get yourself together. I lost my job. Lavinia said the words slowly, letting them sink into Miss Etta. Honey, I hear what you're saying. Miss Etta put a big hand over Lavinia's. But you will either go hungry or get you another job. And I don't think you're going to go hungry. That poor woman ain't going to have her but one funeral. And everybody deserves a decent funeral. Can I count on you, baby? Yes. Lavinia went into the bathroom and looked at herself in the cracked mirror of the medicine cabinet. She looked bad, and she didn't care. She sat on the toilet, felt another shiver of desperation, and somehow stopped the urge to scream. Sister Stovall's body was laid out in the Dudley Free Will Baptist Church. Dudley was the oldest and largest storefront church on the south side. Inside the church itself, it didn't look like a storefront institution. The second floor had been taken out, and a two-row balcony had been installed in the back. A picture of a stained glass window had been painted behind the stands where the choir stood. I didn't know she went to Dudley, Lavinia whispered as she looked at the small casket on the front of the stage. It was illuminated by two floor lamps on either side. There were pictures of a white, blue-eyed Jesus on the shades of the lamps. She didn't go to no church except on Christmas and Easter, Miss Etta said. She's lucky to find a place that would bury her. And she didn't have a penny when she died. She didn't? Lavinia thought of the fox stole Sister Stovall wore around the neighborhood. Everybody thought she had money, Miss Etta said, but her Unity insurance wasn't even paid up. Miss Etta pointed toward the corner of the coffin as a dark man shuffled from an office behind the pulpit. Y'all relatives? The nearly toothless man asked. Friends, Miss Etta said. I'm Deacon Brown. I just come to see what's what. Can't do nothing with that coffin. The deacon bent over from the waist and ran his fingers along the edge of the mahogany-colored wood. The wood had come apart at the corner, the division flaring out at the top of the coffin, revealing the satin lining and part of the stiff batting beneath it. Sister Stovall's heel, in a taupe-colored cotton stocking, was just visible. Miss Etta put one of her large arms on either side of the corner and pushed with all her strength. The wood creaked and a piece of top slat chipped off. What is this stuff made of? Miss Etta asked. This is like one of them one-day boxes they used to use down around Berea in Kentucky, Deacon Brown said. They used to bury people within 24 hours of them dying because they didn't have no way of preserving the bodies. People didn't have money for no fancy coffins. You tried nailing it? Miss Etta asked. If you nail the top slats, then the bottom starts splitting, like when you was trying, Deacon Brown said. You got you a good grip there? We can put a cover on it, Lavinia said. Put a sheet around it first, and then put something over that. Got that black lace shawl Mr. Harrison bought me from a Coast Guard fellow, Miss Etta said. It's all the way from Spain. We got a sheet in the back we can donate, Deacon Brown said. That might be a good idea. Lavinia looked at the floor, then at the closed coffin. She took a deep breath. I'll go on home and get the shawl, Miss Etta said. Why don't you see what kind of sheet they got here? Miss Etta started down the aisle of the small church, and Deacon Brown went for the sheet, leaving Lavinia alone with the coffin. She leaned on it, her thoughts instantly back to the telegram that Mr. Dietz had sent her. As a part of Lavinia Lewis said that she should go back to the Dietz's house and ask to see her employer, and that he would understand how much she needed the job. She would say that Florence had only been pulling a trick on him and that she would explain. Then she thought she wouldn't have to go back at all, that Florence would tell her father what had happened, and he would send another telegram. There was nothing to worry about. There was nothing at all, she told herself, to worry about. She a close friend of yours? Deacon Brown's voice startled Lavinia. Not really, but everyone deserves a decent funeral, she answered. You're a decent young person, Deacon Brown said. That's a rare thing these days. Young people don't have respect like they used to in the old days. Lavinia took the sheet, and first wrapped and then unwrapped the end of the coffin. Then she took it again and folded it carefully so that it laid over the only foot of the coffin, barely covering the corner. Can we tack it on like this? Lavinia asked. Yeah, I guess so. Deacon Brown went back to the office to find a hammer. Lavinia thought of the Dietz's home. In the evening, only Mr. Dietz answered the phone. Miss Etta returned with the shawl and, after Deacon Brown had tacked the sheet to the end of the coffin, laid it carefully over it. It don't look too bad, Miss Etta said. Looks a lot better than her foot sticking out, Deacon Brown chuckled and then caught himself. Lavinia pulled gently at the sheet, saw that it was not going to come off, and turned toward Miss Etta. It'll last if they don't tug at it too hard, she said. The wind had picked up, sending cold gusts that whipped the ends of Lavinia's dress. Miss Etta took her hand as they walked briskly down the nearly deserted streets, both women leaning into the wind. A clock in the window of a furniture store read nearly 11 o'clock. A street lamp flickered above them when they reached Miss Etta's block. How you feeling, girl? Okay, I guess, Lavinia said. I think I might get my job back. All that has to happen is that Florence tells Mr. Dietz what she did. Then I'm sure that... Oh, baby. Miss Etta turned away. The half moon was barely visible as it drifted over the tenement roofs. From the distant darkness came the easy rhythm of a horse's hooves on cobblestone. You don't think I should call Mr. Dietz? Sure. Call him from the basement, Miss Etta said. Mr. Harrison's got a telephone down there. He does? Yeah, some people say that he takes numbers sometimes and calls them in from down there. I don't believe that. Do you? I guess not, Lavinia said. But what do you think? Do you think he'll give me the job back? I think you should ask for it back if that's what you want to do, Miss Etta said. But I think you can be just as hurt getting it back as not getting it. Miss Etta took Lavinia's arm as they walked the rest of the way to the tenement the older woman had lived in most of her life. They went down the tin-covered stairs to the basement apartment that came with Mr. Harrison's job as building superintendent. They found him working on the plumbing. Miss Etta told him that Lavinia had to make a private telephone call. He gave Lavinia a look and asked if she had finally caught her a beau. No, mind your business, Miss Etta said. Telephone at the Dietz's home rang 5 times, and Lavinia was ready to hang up when she heard the heavy voice announce that she had reached the Dietz's residence. This is Lavinia, she said. I wonder if Florence told you what happened today? That you were part of a lie, was the quick answer. Lavinia hesitated, searching for response. I wondered if it would be all right if I came into work tomorrow. I'm sorry, but I don't think so, Mr. Dietz answered. I can't compromise on the standards I have for my domestic help. However, because I basically think you are a decent person, I will give you good references. In the future, I hope you will maintain your personal honesty under all circumstances. Good night. When Lavinia came out of Mr. Harrison's apartment, Miss Etta didn't have to ask her what had happened. She took the young girl in her arms. You can stay with me for a while, Miss Etta said. Miss Etta? And you took a deep breath. Is there any place around here where I could do hair and people could, you know, come to and I could charge them? You mean you're going to try to make it on your own? Miss Ed asked. Child, I know you can do some hair and stuff, but I think I can do it, Miss Etta. I know I can. You really hate curry that much. No, I don't. Lavinia wiped the tears away with her fingertips. It's just that curry isn't my dream. It's my daddy's. You know I really love that place. You do? Miss Etta's hands went to her hips. Since when? Since the first time I saw how my daddy loved it, Lavinia said. I love it, and I want to save it and be as proud of it as he is, but I don't want to live it. Does that make any sense? You know, you are deep for a skinny girl, Miss Etta said. Skinny girls usually ain't deep, but you are deep. I want to be a part of what Negroes are doing today. I want to be building something, making something. I don't know. I feel like I could even discover something. That's what the new Negro is doing. What we old Negroes supposed to be doing? You're supposed to be doing anything you want to do, anything you have the mind to do, Lavinia answered. Girl, just look at your face. You look like you're fixin' to fight or something. I'm sorry, Miss Etta. Don't be sorry. As determined as you look, I'm just glad that I'm on your side. Mr. Harrison can help you find a place. It won't be much, probably, but it'll be something for you to get started. And I can get up a rent party for you. I don't think I need a rent party, Lavinia said. What do I care if you think you need one or don't think you need one? Miss Etta said. I throw rent parties because I like to have parties. If they pay somebody's rent, that's okay too. And since it's for my only godchild, this is going to be a get down swinging new Negro rent party. How about that? Sounds good to me. Sure do. Now, why don't you come on upstairs and tell me how you going to do my hair and make me beautiful so Mr. Harrison will get down on his knees and beg me to marry him? On his knees. On his knees. Dear Daddy and Mama, it was so good to get your postcard. Thank you for sending your blessing and your love. You know how much I need them. I know I will miss you, but I will visit Curry as much as I can. You can feel sure that I will stay close to Miss Etta and that I will attend church every Sunday and stay in the choir. In your letter, you say I should never forget that I am a Lewis and come from a proud tradition of good and God fearing people. I promise you that I will never, never do anything that will make you ashamed of me. I love you and Richard and will always keep that love as the most precious thing in my life. Your daughter, Lavinia.